There's something interesting about this condo. It's one of the older bachelor pads, small family rooms in Mont Kiara, yet it matches rental rates of younger developments and consistently rank among the top transacted 2-bedrooms units in the area, beating projects like Twai, Ate and Bursuits. So the question isn't whether it's old, it's why do people still choose to live here? Today we are looking at Solaris Dutamas, better known as Publika. On paper it's straightforward, but these numbers don't explain why demand is still here. The ecosystem does. The property is built on a 17 acres land at the eastern entrance of Mont Kiara. What stands out is how locals treat this development. When you arrive, you walk into movement, kinda like a shopping mall. You see office workers, people having informal meetings in cafes, or the weekday lunch crowd. And what makes this even more interesting, for a decade after Publika's completion, there wasn't any other major retail ecosystem built in Mont Kiara. So for anyone working along Jalan Duta Kiara, KL Metropolis, Segambut, Publika becomes the default answer to where should we eat. And that tells you how dominant this place now is. Then in a 1 kilometer radius, you got all this. And Solaris sits at the intersection of these government institutions and the private professionals who services them. Most who are time-sensitive, compliance-driven professionals working within 2 to 3 kilometers who prioritize efficiency over aesthetic. Now let's look at the building. The facade design is very simplistic, but also not very tall. Thus, for a 17-acre plot, density is very low, 800 units total. Then we come to the lobby. Each block has 2 lobbies, one for each wing. In terms of looks, it's very lackluster, but that's not its superpower. Each lobby has 4 lifts and each floor has 13 units, which means it's 8 lifts to 13 units. Have you seen a condo that can match this yet? Walkways and corridors looks okay, but pales in comparison to younger bachelor pad. And then on to the facilities. The pool is not very Instagrammable, but there's a good variety around here. Also, the design clearly moves away from Mont Kiara's resort style and to more functionality, catering to working urban professionals. Today, the demography evolves. Now, this demography are usually dual-income families, traveling very often, eat out every day, and use facilities lightly. For them, functionality is enough. That's why it hasn't fallen out of demand. The mix is simple. 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 2-bed, 1-study type. Square foot allocation is super generous, even by back then's standards. Back then, it targeted urban professionals in the M40 to early T20 range. Today, rental still reflects that positioning. Also, most units are fully furnished, which tells you the tenant profile is very mobile, transitional, and convenience focused. To them, this isn't a forever home, it's a I need efficiency kind of situation. Now, in terms of performance, here it's stable, not speculative. Liquidity-wise, the most popular units are the 2-bedders, usually constituting around 60 to 70% of annual transaction volume. Capital gain is flat for about 8 years. There's no major catalyst for another 5 years, so this property isn't a flipping story. But rental yield is about 5% plus and has been very consistent across the entire 17 years. That consistency matters way more than spikes. It means if you don't get your asking price, you're not pressured. You just rent it out. Demand hasn't disappeared. So which tells you Solaris is what kind of property? It's not trendy. It's not the fast growth type. It's not aesthetic driven. It's convenience driven, ecosystem backed property that has proven its demand over and over again. And that's a very different kind of value. So if you are looking for aggressive appreciations or comparing new launch purely based on facilities, this property is really not for you. But if your strategy prioritizes rental stability, liquidity, and proven demand, then Solaris Dutamas deserves serious consideration. 17 years later, this property still has significant demand, not because of hype, but because of track record. So, if rental resilience is your priority, this property makes a lot of sense. If you are evaluating Mont Kiara with that strategy, then we can have a talk.